The creators of the popular website Black Nerd Problems, Omar Holman and William Evans, bring their insights to a collection of pop culture essays on everything from Mario Kart and The Wire to issues of representation and police brutality in their new book, Black Nerd Problems. I sit down with these two masterminds. Coming up next.
Live from Los Angeles. This is the special report. Areva Martin.
Omar Holman, recognized by Rutgers University as a distinguished alumnus poet, is the author of the poetry collection, We Were All Someone Else Yesterday. William Evans is an author, performer, and instructor known for founding the Righting Wrongs Poetry Slam. He has been a national finalist in multiple poetry slam competitions. Together, they are the authors of Black Nerd Problems essays. Welcome, Omar and William. Super excited. Sit down with the two of you. I'm going to make a confession. I wasn't that familiar with your website, but I have been super intrigued by this book. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Areva. Appreciate that.
Talk to me a little about this journey, the journey from meeting at a poetry slam contest, becoming friends, deciding to take your brand of pop culture to the internet with this super successful website, and now your book. And I already told my executive producer, I know a sketch comedy show, HBO or something like that. First, I just already know it. I've already proclaimed it. So when it happens, come back here first to talk about it.
Absolutely.
But talk to me about this journey. What has it been like?
It's been wild. I think when Omar and I first started, really when we just becoming friends and bouncing these nerd references off each other or talking about something that came out or something that was of interest to us. It was just, it was water cooler talk, right? It was just the way we kind of got down and talked about it. And I think when we started really looking at the things that were covering us, in terms of the pop culture aspect of it, things that we wanted to see or things we wanted to hear about, there just wasn't much of it that was from our perspective. And the more and more we talked about it, we're like, maybe there's something we could do. And that's kind of where the website came from. And we knew from the website, we didn't want it to just be us two. We knew other Black nerdy folks that were into the same things we were into. And so we kind of put together our own Avengers team when we started. And then from there, just the website grew. We got a lot of unique voices in there with different perspectives, and we kind of built a community that way.
So, Omar, both of you are spoken word poets. How significant is that? Like, is the background as a poet, do you think, is that what gives you your unique voice on your website and then in this new book?
That's a hard question. I think
and you say it's hard, Omar.
Yeah, it's a hard. Making me act like I know. I got to put my English major to use now. Okay. It just helped us know how to write certain things. It was something nice to lean on. A lot of the folks that we got at the start of this. Came in as writers as well, like Nicole Homer. She was in Slam with us, like the same thing. But it's really just there's certain moments where we can use the whole poetry aspect, but it's really just us having a conversation with folks, not talking with folks. There's a very good example. It's not in the book, but there's a Game of Thrones recap, or Will did it in the voice of different women authors to recap the entire show, and it was really different as a recap from what he usually does. But it was a very poetic voice. It's probably one of my favorites as well. So it's like an on and off thing, using that as in their writing, but mostly us was just talking with people.
So poetry does help. I think it's how you were answering that question.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. I'm a lawyer, so I just try to reduce everything. I want to talk about this definition, William, of a nerd, because I kind of think of myself as a nerd, but you guys have an interesting way of describing in the introduction. what a nerd is. So take us through your thinking and how you define a nerd. You give some references too, like there's Urkel that you mentioned in the book. There's Dwayne Wayne. There's Raj. So what is a nerd?
I feel like, obviously the term, just like anything else, like nerd has evolved quite a bit from a very stereotypical aspect that we thought of someone who probably could not see without their glasses. Sorry, Omar, no offense there. To, had maybe low aspirations. They only consume these nerdy things. And I think it really has grown so much in terms of just what can you be passionate about, geek out about. And I think the big defining thing for what I would classify as a nerd now is, how are you willing to share this with your peoples, right? And I think about so many things that I am hyper focused on, something that really catches my eye. And, I'll be telling my wife about it, like, oh, this is the coolest thing. You got to check this out. And she may not care. She may not have like any reference for this particular thing, but there's a particular passion that I have that I really want other people to indulge in. And that's kind of where I see the term nerd at. And I think what makes that difficult is because we still have gatekeeping, right, in the nerd community and so many other communities where people want to hold very tight to a thing. But I don't think anything can grow when you got your arms wrapped around it that tightly. And so I think part of what we wanted to do in redefining nerd and just the book in general is show that we can be super passionate about these things and also let people in to not say this thing that we love and you can never understand it because our love is in that way. No, like this is a thing that we love and you can probably love it too. Here's some background on it.
Omar, did it help that we started seeing people who are thought of as nerds becoming billionaires, like Bill Gates and Zuckerberg and Bezos and Elon Musk? They're kind of nerdy, but they're, running the world. Amazon right now, we can't get on Facebook or Instagram because, AWS servers down. That's Amazon. So, do you think that opened up a whole new horizon for nerds?
You keep giving me the hard questions. That's capitalism. I don't know if that's nerdism right there. That's a whole nother thing. But I, in a sense, in a traditional sense, yeah, right. Like the underdog that got rich or whatever. If that's the traditional sense, I think we're on a different side of that. Away from
on your way. You on your way. You have to deal with that capitalism. No, don't
listen.
Oh no, the curse.
That's where you headed. You know that, right?
The curse.
Listen, I'm just saying. You give us $1 billion, we're gonna build a couple Wakandas across the USA. Ain't no need to hoard all that much money, but that's another conversation. But I'd say, you can look look at a Donald Glover, look at an Aisha Taylor, look at a Megan Thee Stallion. You know what I'm saying? Like those folks of color that that may not can be considered nerds, but they kind of let it fly out now. Even if you really want to be real about it. The Wu-Tang Clan, man, these hard dudes from the street, whatever, but they love comic books and they've referenced it a lot, you know what I'm saying? So and even in battle raps, you see it happen in all these different cultures where you thought maybe it wouldn't be able to flourish, but it flourishes now. So I would use that as more of the examples to be able to relate to.
Well, William, Omar did mention some females that he would say fall into this nerd here. But traditionally, when you think of nerds, you're thinking about men. So there's a lot of misogyny, kind of sexism,
absolutely,
wrapped up into this whole concept of who is a nerd. So are you hoping that through this book, Black Nerd Problems, your website, that you're breaking down some of those stereotypes?
Yeah. And also we just have to be very honest about us as narrators, right? We're two cishet men that are talking about these things. But I think one of the things that we really attempted to do with the website with Black Nerd Problems is make it more diverse amongst us. We always knew we were going to be diverse from mainstream media, so to speak, or pop culture, mainstream pop culture, because we were Black, because we had a marginalized voice compared to them. But I think within us, we didn't just want to be a bunch of dudes sitting around talking about nerd stuff either. What I think, and when they mentioned gatekeeping earlier, and Omar mentioned some kind of avatars of nerddom that are women in the space, and I feel and we talk about this all the time, that the gatekeeping, it doesn't happen as much for Omar and I. right? It happens for our women colleagues, women writers, from Black Nerd Problems and a lot of other outlets or journalists that have to pass some kind of test to prove how nerdy they are. And I'm hoping that this book and the site and the things that we put out there can help break down some of those barriers and kind of, I've talked about like the tent. We want the tent to get bigger. We don't want to put locks on the doors. We actually want the tent to get bigger of nerddom. And so I'm hoping it has that effect. But I also realize that like we can only do so much as far as the authority of our voice, and we try to put as many people on as we can, right? And put people into that space that can speak to it better than us.
So I'm thinking about, Omar, this is an easy one for you, okay? I'm about to throw you a softball. So I'm thinking about Revenge of the Nerds, right?
Oh, God. Come on.
This is an easy one. Revenge of the Nerds. Everybody saw the movie. It's about the underdogs, figuring out how they're going to, be triumphant, in the end. So the kind of the narrative of nerds is that, they're always fighting the dominant, culture.
Okay.
But when you start talking about Megan Thee Stallion and some of those other people you name, you don't think of them as underdogs. You don't think of them as per se. You think of them as, people who are winning. So is the narrative shifting where, nerds aren't always the underdogs? Are nerds, super powerful people in their own right?
Are you talking my language now? All right, so Revenge of the Nerds, even in that movie, it's like all about underdogs and whatnot. You still got a lot of misogyny and stereotypes in that because it was like made in the 80s, whatever. Okay, that was a joke at the time. Cool, whatever. That's not the case anymore. We can talk about Megan Thee Stallion and such. Nerd has become, like, nerd is a subculture, right? To be a Black nerd or a nerd of color, it's a subculture within a subculture. So now nerd has become like a mainstream thing. And as Will pointed to earlier, like the gatekeeping, it's like that favorite band, I love this song, but then like that becomes like their hit song and everybody gets exposed to them. It's like, oh man, I liked them before they were cool. With nerd, when it becomes mainstream, it's like, oh man, this was my whole personality. Now it's acceptable everywhere. I was from a time when it wasn't. What is my identity now? And so nerd has become a spectrum now. So it's a spectrum of nerd things. It just means that you're a fan of a bunch of different things. We've seen Megan Thee Stallion, she's a fan of all these animes and everything like that. We've seen Childish Gambino, when Donald Glover, when he was rapping, he made references to pop culture, cartoons, things like that. It's basically okay. He had a joke saying it was illegal till 2003, right around when Obama years came around, then it became like acceptable for everybody. But like now you can see like, oh, being a nerd is really just being a fan of something, and it's cool now, and it's okay now to just express what you're a fan of, be it cooking shows, be it sports, be it being a sneakerhead. Like all these things fit in the category of nerd because it's a spectrum now. Nailed it! Yes, that's what I'm talking about. You see that?
Move to the front of the class. You got that. You nailed it, because I'm sitting here saying, okay, now people feel good and they can openly say and embrace, the nerd in them, because before it was like a criticism, right? You got to up the kid at school on the playground. You carry too many books in your hand, you were a nerd. That was a bad thing. Now it's like, everybody's proudly proclaiming that they're passionate and that they're a nerd. I want to ask you, William, about the style of this book. So I started reading it and got some interesting titles here. And you write, and sometimes I feel like it's just a conversation. Like I'm just reading two dudes who are talking to each other, and somebody maybe is transcribing, or maybe you're typing on a computer. But like, here's a passage I'm reading. It says, now you may be reading this and thinking, where's this going? Who gives a F? Why did he switch glasses when he was already wearing glasses? Well, if you're reading this book, that clearly says Black Nerd Problems on it, or just glimpsing through it, Jeff Foxworthy voice, you might be a redneck with a line crossed through it, nerd. Regardless, hear me out and watch how I flip this shit.
yeah. Got to Areva Martin cursing on the show. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, using bad words.
Yeah. It's like real rap.
Bad words. So I can't read the book without reading a lot of bad words.
Yeah.
True.
Curse word.
Yeah.
Whatever word, profanity, whatever you want to use. Why that kind of tone? You like super educated Rutgers.
I think, I mean, for us, we wanted it to be our voice. This is how Omar and I talk to each other. This is how we talk, when we're in our communities and things like that. And I think there's always a time and place, right? There's a difference when I am, talking to I don't know, when I go in and talk to a high school class or talk to a middle school class and we're talking about different things like that, as opposed to when we are just chopping it up on the internet or whatever. And I think one of the big priorities for Omar and I, when we started the site, and I would say even more so when we agreed to do this book, is that we didn't want to sanitize our voice, right? We wanted to be very authentically us. And I think, if we took a moment to be like, well, I would say this, but I don't want to say this now because the book's going to be coming out, right? Or even, this is, I don't know if it's controversial, but I think it brings up another topic that's whole about like internet traffic and everything else. We also didn't want to be like, well, I want to write this thing, but I don't know how many views it's going to get if I curse in it, or I don't, you know what I mean? And we just wanted it to be us. And sometimes that made compromises on the other side of things. But like, one thing that we can never be accused of is that we watered down something that we, and let's be very real, that we, did something for the white gays per se, right? That we did something to appeasement and, to assimilate for white folks. We just weren't interested in that. And I don't think, that's the most surprising thing to me about us writing this book, is that Omar and I from the beginning were like, this is how we're going to sound. And like, we're not going to try to make adjustments for that. And the fact that we were still able to go down this path, I'm encouraged by it, but I would say that was a surprising thing for me.
Well, do you think, Omar, your ability to be unapologetically who you are and to use your voices, do you think the movement that we saw after George Floyd was murdered has had anything to do with the openness of a mainstream publisher willing to publish a book like this? I've been interviewing just a slew of young Black authors, many first-time authors who've gotten book deals that I know as a four-time author myself would have been impossible to get just 2 years ago, definitely 5 years ago. But they're coming out with new books that are getting optioned for TV and for films, and they're winning all these awards and getting picked up by all these mainstream, book clubs, and reviewers are just going off the chain about these books. Do you think you all are also benefiting from this moment where publishers are being reflective and are saying, look, we need more diverse voices in the stuff we're putting out into the world?
Yeah, I think so. And it just, I don't like that it takes something like that to be heard, but then, it was you can go right back to that summer. We were writing that book in that summer, and I live in Brooklyn, and I could see the protests happening up and down Eastern Parkway, and like we wrote about it in the book as well. And Will's like, it's a time and place. I was like, how funky am I about to keep it right now in my head? But like,
just keep it real.
No, it's
that's what it's all about.
It's just something like it was something that was happening all over the world, man. And you saw that. So like a lot of companies, were like, okay, we'll do this for a certain amount of time, maybe or whatever. But like this one, like, okay, well, we gave them a shot. We gave these folks a shot and whatnot. But like, okay, so like we see more and more it become not just like all right, we'll give them this and just like to appease them. It's become more and more like, all right, folks really want something real, something different, man. So, okay, we're seeing that more and more happening now. And yeah, I could say, yeah, we're probably a part of that.
Did you get any pushback from your publisher, your editor, in terms of?
Oh. Hell no. Nah, not with us, though. I will say someone had some issues with the legal. That wasn't me. Though.
Okay.
Oh, I'm like, where is he going with this? My take on it is this: that we stepped into a moment, and yeah, I definitely think publishers were looking to diversify, either for the right reasons, wrong reasons, whatever you want to call it. The two things that I feel okay about, even though I think that we probably definitely benefited from that particular situation, is one, we didn't compromise the vision, right? We were just like, we're not going to make this more palatable for the situation. We're going to do what we've been doing. And the other side of it is, I think the pragmatic side of it is, if not us, that money was going to someone, that book deal was going to somebody, and not necessarily someone Black, not necessarily someone from a marginalized crowd, right? Like I've said many times.
Do it.
I've said many times that I think, you know, I'm hopeful that our book is successful for all the personal reasons that I hope a book is successful. Right. But I also hope that the book actually helps pave the way for more books like this, because, you know, my joke has been, you know, there is a 38-year-old white woman, mother of two, used to be a teacher, writing like some YA lit that's going to get a 6-figure deal, and like no one's going to read that book. But like that deal's happening every day, right? And I don't think we can say that about authors from our community. So yeah, if we get that opportunity, and we can still be true to what our voice is and the message we want to put out there, I don't feel a little bit bad about it.
No, and you shouldn't. You should feel good about it. And like I said, I've had an opportunity to interview so many authors who are, you know, speaking their truths and telling stories that you would never, you know, see published. And they're getting 6-7-figure deals and, you know, doing quite well in an industry that has traditionally not been all that receptive to diverse voices. I do want to ask you about the contents of the book. It's a collection of essays, you know, from comic book focused essays, some that are, you know, lighthearted and more, you know, I'll call, you know, on the comedic side. But then there's a lot of serious and sobering essays in this book. You know, you're touching on some subjects that hit home for our community in terms of violence, you know, violence against Black men and boys. Why, Omar, okay, I don't know if this is a hard one or a soft one, but this is for you. Why the combination? You know, why the lighthearted with the real raw, you know, stuff that's happening that touches the lives of so many Black people?
I guess this goes back into going back to our poetry days. I know this is something, I mean, Will did it too as well. We're two dudes that can use like if you're serious all the time, it's kind of be like, all right, I read that, but it's, whoa, geez, man, there's moments of brevity. And, you know, if it's funny all the time, it's like, all right, well, that was funny, but like, I was looking for a little something more. Isn't life both humor and comedy? Like humor, comedy, and seriousness, like that's life, is it not? So we're just reflecting, we're just writing what's reflective in our own lives and stuff as well. Like, yeah, we can joke about some things, yeah, but then like, all right, well, here's like it's a roller coaster. You don't want just you don't want a ride that's just like the same all the way through. You want this. You want all this. You want the Raven thing going on. So
like Jeremy.
Yeah, it's Jeremy. Thank you. Thank you. You know, the Good Place reference right there. That's what I'm talking about. And that is what I mean. That's what life is, and also that's what's happening in our lives as well. So why not talk about that? Like we're not gonna shy away from that. Like, oh yeah, it's a nerdy book, but you think you're gonna get that real? You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna get this realness either which way. You know what I'm saying? Right. Sorry, I don't know why. I don't know. I just jumped out of the question.
And in doing that, and having the lighthearted and the serious, William, there are a lot of references in the book that people may not get. You know, I was reading the book, first just starting with these incredible titles that you have for these essays. I'm over asking myself, what are you talking about? I'm not sure what they're talking about. Okay. If you're not a comic book fan, but I want to disabuse my audience of the notion that you have to be a comic book fan to enjoy Black Nerd Problem. So help my audience understand why they may not like a single comic, movie, or book, and still will love this book.
I'll take this you will.
Yeah, I think it's because we are showing our fandom of the thing. We're showing our enthusiasm of the thing. And I think even if, you know, if I'm talking about a comic book and an essay, and it might be a comic that you've never read or a character you haven't heard of, but, you know, I'm also not giving you a review of it, right? And we're also just like, this is why I love this thing. This is why I indulge this thing. This is why I want to see this thing come back, whatever that may be. And I think that particular, like the heart of that essay or the emotional center of that essay is what's going to keep people engaged, even if they don't know the particulars of it, right? And I think I say it in the intro, and I think this is the perfect example of it. Omar's favorite manga anime is Hajime no Ippo. It's a boxing anime. He loves that thing to death. Me and Omar have been friends for over a decade, and I have never watched a second of that show. I've never read a panel of that show, but I get it. I get how much he loves it, and it makes me invested. If he's like, oh, this new episode or this new chapter came out, and he wants to tell me about it, I'm in, even though I'm not a fan of that particular, because I'm a fan of his enthusiasm. And I'm hoping that's what comes across in the book, even for those that don't know every reference.
Okay, Omar, other than anime, what is geeking you out at this moment?
Whew. I mean, I've been in the lands of Tsushima, playing as Jin Sakai in Ghost of Tsushima. I've been freeing the land. You know what I'm saying? I've been out here doing it for my uncle, doing it for my hood, doing it for my clan. So Ghost of Tsushima has been like my real that's been I've just been invested. I think that's probably my favorite video game of all time. You know, my man, honorable samurai, but you can't be honorable in these times, man. My man went to guerrilla warfare. You know what I'm saying? Like I cried. I love that game. The ending, I made me cry. Oh, grown man cried. Yeah, that was me.
What about you, William? You know, what has you geeked?
I think so. I'm a big TV geek, and so I'm really geeked about not only like Black folks in front of the camera and like some of the changing landscape, but like behind the scenes and like them, you know, a lot more Black folks getting opportunities to write and direct TV and things like that. So I'm all in. I have, if a TV show comes out, it's got a lot of Black and brown characters on it, and it's got like a plot. Like you've already got me for 3 episodes. Like usually I give like a 1 episode, like, you know, trial
give us
run.
a name. I know you got that Watchmen, so I know you're a fan of Watchmen, but other names out there. What do you?
I just started, so because I had to buckle down and get me some Apple TV. I wasn't planning on it. But I had to buckle down, so I started watching The Foundation because like so many things want to act like Black people go extinct in the future. I'm so tired of it. So like having a lot of Black and brown folks in this very futuristic sci-fi high concept show. That's my latest one that I've been watching. But I mean, like,
watch Craig of the Creek?
I mean, I do watch some Craig of the Creek. My daughter also loves Craig of the Creek. It's a good crossover for us in that aspect. So yeah, those are the things that are kind of getting me excited right now. I'm big in TV and movies, so anytime I can see our people's putting on, I'm usually there.
And let me ask you this, Omar. A lot of conversation in the book about the Marvel series, the comic series. And I think I read that you guys were elated at seeing a Black power couple in the series, but some dismay about them breaking up in this crossover event. So what's going on in the Marvel world as it relates to Black folks?
Oh, you want to talk? We can name names. I'm talking about Storm and I'm talking about T'Challa. It was a mistake. They got married finally. They were the power couple. They got married in Wakanda. Had the Avengers. The Avengers were beefing at the time. Got them acting right there. Had like, hey, T'Challa, you ain't gonna do that mess while you here. Out here being witnesses to this great marriage. They had a cosmic being there. He only shows up for world-changing events. And the Watcher. You can see him in What If. He was there to see this marriage. Charles Xavier, Professor X, y'all know him as. He told Aurora, yo, you about to be the Beyonce for the humans, and you got the juice now. You got all the juice now. You're the ambassador now. And then they took that away from us. They took that away from us after like, what, 2-3 years? You know what I'm saying? Now they're like on again, off again. Thanks a ton of Ta-Nehisi Coates. Thank you for that, sir. But like, man, it was like, that was like the first, I mean, to me, a really great big power couple, Black power couple. And I can name maybe 3 Black couples there now. The landscape of it, I mean, there's different things going on now. They've got their relations talking again between them. But Monica Rambeau is dating Adam Bradshire. I think that's still. I'm not sure if Sam Wilson's still together with Misty Knight, but like there are these other couples. I mean, that was just, look. I'm sorry, you got me in my mode right there. That was just that. It hurt. It hurt.
You know, I'm seeing visions of Professor Cornel West, who I interviewed. I don't know if you tell me that they see similarities in your personality, your spoken word, but that's what I'm seeing, and I'm saying that as a compliment to and to him. You're like a younger version of him, and I don't know if you know him. You're in New York. He's in New York. But if you don't, you should get to know him because, oh man, you remind me of him.
Very big nerd himself. Very big nerd himself, obviously.
William, any high hopes for this new Black Panther that's going to come out? You know?
Ooh.
I mean, yeah, we got the same production team behind it. And so, yes, I think it'll still be good. I don't know what Letitia Wright's doing. I hope everything's good with her. I know she had to step off Twitter for a bit.
Hey now.
Little trouble.
But no, I think it's going to be good. I mean, I think, you know, Marvel in general, there's a floor that they kind of don't fall through anymore, right? In terms of like the quality of the movies they make. But that team for Black Panther, and you know, I think we trust them. I think we trust them ultimately. And
How are they dealing with the character Chadwick Boseman?
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, there's so many roads that could go down, like the comics have provided, right? Where Shuri becomes the Black Panther, or they kind of have this power vacuum in Wakanda. There's a lot of different ways that could go. I mean, to answer your question, I think they're going to do a good job with it. I just have faith in them. The thing that looms large to me, and what you're alluded to, is like, Chadwick Boseman not being here breaks my heart. Breaks my heart all the time, for not being there for Black Panther, but just not being here in his life as like an ambassador for Black stories in general. And I really think I missed that already, and like I'm gonna miss that, because he was so committed to cataloging our voice and our story. And it doesn't mean that other performers aren't doing something like that or are going to continue to do that. But we're gonna miss him. We're gonna miss Chadwick. I mean, we miss him now. We're gonna miss him a lot more in the future. And I think I say this in the book, or at least I've said it many other places, like the way Chadwick loved this was just so defined and unique. So I'm anxious for a Black Panther. I think we're all going to be kind of, be kind of heartsick going to the theater to see that. But I have faith that they're going to still do a good job with it.
Yeah, Chadwick can, embody James Brown in the Black Panther. Very few, actors could do that. And, big loss to all of us for sure. Omar, the book, Black Nerd Problems, is in some ways a continuation of this amazing community that you've built online. When people visit your website, Black Nerd Problems, what are they going to find? Like, what do you want people to take away when they visit the website?
Oh, you're going to find reviews talking that real. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see reviews. You're going to see reviews on movies, TV shows, games, things that interest us and things you might not know about. Also things about like cosplaying, or you might see video editorials talking about like why some Disney villains that didn't do anything wrong. You're going to see a plethora of content from people that like care about this stuff. Man, just here to, get the voices out and whatnot. It's just, it's all around good, wholesome fun. You might have some curses in there. So what? Curses scary. Nah, man, this is the real you wanted. And we're giving you that real. We've been doing it for 7 years.
Wow.
And we'll do it for 7 more.
And you've built an incredible audience, online audience. And one of the other things I like about the book, a couple of chapters you have where you're defending the desire of Black consumers, really, to defend the Black art. There's a chapter about the want to protect Taraji's proud Mary. Why is that important to you, that you highlight Black people's desire to protect the art of other Black people like Taraji Henson?
Yeah, I think it's so much on the knife's edge of, because we know how we are critically done with when it's not our people doing it, right? We know how reviews or viewpoints are very different than our own when critiquing our art. And so I think there's definitely a need for us to be either defensive or the want to protect a lot of our artistic properties that kind of reflect us. And then there's the other side of it of, if we aren't being critical enough to our own work, how do we grow, right? And I think that's, this in this particular instance, we're talking about art, we're talking about, movies and TV, but that kind of applies everywhere, right? In terms of how do you grow in whatever you're doing without kind of critical analysis on it. So I think it's this kind of double-edged sword that marginalized communities have to deal with uniquely, because we don't always trust, or, we've had plenty of situations where we did not feel that we were treated fairly or given a fair shake by more popular media that wasn't populated by us. And so it's a conundrum, I think, for us. But I think, like I said before, I'm usually going to err on the side of, it's got Black folks in it, then sign me up. I'm going to at least give it a try.
All right. I hear you, Omar. I don't know if on the site you've tackled R. Kelly. We're talking about protecting art. I know it's a hard one for you. You're going to say, Areva asked me another hard question. I'm going to end this.
That's not a hard one.
This one might be his easiest question.
Well, talk to me about what the site would say about R. Kelly, or if you guys have covered it on the site.
Nah, I can give you a different example. R. Kelly hasn't come across our radar. But Will, if you remember when Birth of a Nation was coming out?
Yep.
And so I'm like telling Will's story here, but like, Will was really hyped about it. He wrote a review for it and everything. And then the sexual allegations came out about that.
For the trailer.
The trailer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was pretty specific. And so then Will made a decision like, all right, since it'd be weird to have hyped up the trailer because I was really excited about it. And then these allegations come out and then just be quiet about it. Right. So in light of that, we're not gonna cover it. And so in that choice, a lot of the women on the site like, yo,
let me make sure I understand. You wrote, William, a review of the trailer. What did you write again?
Yeah. So I just wrote when the trailer came out. I wrote a response.
Parker, right?
Yes. When the trailer came out, I wrote a response to the trailer about how hype I was to see this movie, right? And it's like, I don't know, way too many words. Like my write-up was longer than the trailer, right? Yeah. Like I was very excited about it.
You were geeked about the
fully geeked about it. And so then as the allegations, which I don't, we can say they came out, but they had always been there. But as they got louder and louder and more attention drew to them, I just made the decision, especially in being, I wrote it, but also being editor-in-chief of the site. I just said, we're not going to review it. I want to stand in solidarity with a lot of women who have been victims of sexual assault and sexual misconduct. And I did not want to give that more airtime. But I did feel that because I had hyped this thing up so much, that I didn't just want to shrink away from that moment. And I wanted to give some clarity. So I wrote pretty much an op-ed, as you would say, that just said, we're not gonna review it on the site. We're not telling anyone to go boycott the movie. We're not telling anyone not to go to the theater and support it if that's what you want to do. But the position of Black Nerd Problems is that we're not going to review this film. And here's why. I mean, I feel like that's the less important part of it.
Omar, about my R. Kelly question, you said that one is easy, but you haven't covered it on the site. So you stood in solidarity with victims around Birth of a Nation. Did the thought cross your mind to stand in solidarity with the Black female victims of R. Kelly by saying something, doing something on the site?
Well, I think so, but I think we do that in our normal coverage of things. And I think what made it different with Birth of a Nation is because we had promoted it previously. And to my record, we've never covered anything with R. Kelly on the site. And part of that, the very big meta part of that is we don't usually cover a lot of music on the site because it's such a big rabbit hole to get away kind of from geekdom. And I think the second part of it is, I can speak to my particular politics, and I feel pretty comfortable that Omar and I are aligned with this. Have rocked with R. Kelly for a really, really long time, a really, really long time. And for us and for those that are writing on the site, the position on R. Kelly has never been a blurry or confusing one. And so I think the difference would be is that we never gave R. Kelly any air, gave him any oxygen on the site or any coverage or acknowledgement previously, where with Nate Parker and Birth of a Nation, I definitely did before I became more aware of what was out there. And then I felt like I needed to address why we would not be moving forward with that kind of coverage.
But okay, again, I got to take another stab at this, Omar. For those Black women, those victims who are saying we're not hearing enough Black men stand in solidarity with Black women, it's Black women who move this, Dream Hampton, the women who started the Mute R. Kelly, hashtag, the women prosecutors who are prosecuting him. Can the site, have you considered that it might be important for the site to take a position because you are two strong Black men with pretty big voices now? Now you got this, book out there, you got this major platform. So speak to those Black women and say, hey, we need to hear more from you Black men on this issue.
Yes, I think I feel like there's always be done more on that. When we cover things that within the whole nerd section of the current racism and conduct, and we've done like the Me Too movement, and I feel we've talked about it, and we talked about it within our own Slack and within our own Discord as well, and we've addressed some issues and whatnot online through our Twitter and too. But even when doing that, I feel like it's always we can speak on it. We also highlight women on our website stuff, but there's always more that can be done with that as well. So even if we're talking about like, okay, we spoke on it, we show solidarity with them, but there's still always more that can be done with that because that's still, not saying that, not saying that speaking up about that, but like we like to show it in our actions as well. with that. If that, hopefully that makes sense.
It does. And I'm going to follow the site and we're going to see. But okay, that's a good answer. I appreciate you saying that you guys have always spoke to it in a way that affirms Black women. Easy question before we get out, and that's Hidden Figures. So we know the movie, that movie celebrates a Black female nerd, you know, a mathematician, scientist who is really celebrated, whose story many people didn't know until that movie came out. Are there other Black nerds, you know, people of color like the character in that movie that we don't know about, that we should know about, should be a big movie about them? Any one or two names come to mind for you?
Well, it wouldn't qualify as nerds, but I don't know if you qualify as nerd or whatever like that, but we covered back when Henrietta Lacks, man, she's the whole reason we got like the immortal line Henrietta Lacks. She's the whole reason we have like so many cures like polio and vaccines and HeLa-cells, and we covered that like earlier, and in the site as well. I'm trying to think of who we.
Well, are there any, you know, do you think that there are other movies out there, I don't know if you've covered it or not, that you'd say to folks, hey, go out and check this out because this is, you know, William, any come to mind for you?
Anything Viola Davis is starring in, you talking? What the hell? Shao was there for Widows. What are we?
I do.
Anytime Taraji P. Henson's holding a sniper rifle, I'm like, I'm there. I'm with that. Let's go. That's my journey right there.
I feel like there's a lot of, and oh man, I'm sorry, I don't have specific examples. I feel like there's a lot of movies and specifically movies where you have Black folks behind the camera. I mean, the one thing I would definitely point people towards would be Small Axe. If you can get down with Amazon, which is a whole other thing. But like the Small Axe anthology is amazing for how it centers Black folks and Black voices, and you've got a complete Black production team there. That whole anthology and that movie series has been great. I would say, and I know a lot of people have heard about it, but maybe they haven't watched it. You know, Underground Railroad is probably the best show I watched last year.
Oh, I watched it.
It's so good, and I think so many people, justifiably so, are going to be like, slavery, I can't do it again. And there's something, you know, specifically, one is, you know, being made by one of the best filmmakers out there. But also it kind of, after the first couple episodes, it kind of decentralizes slavery as the particular plot movement of that story, and really just tells this very human story of these people making their way in what is a new world to them. Yeah. So those would be the two that I would really say, if you haven't watched those, find a way to watch those. Because they're just great quality TV making. And I think so often, even with Underground Railroad kind of going left of what you expect it's going to be, like, I think most people thought it was going to be 10 episodes of like trying to escape a plantation, and that's over in like the first episode kind of. But it really does defy what so many people think Black people can tell stories. And like the answer to that question is we could tell all the stories, but I think so many people need to see it. And so those kind of movies, shows, I think kind of defy that in a really good way.
Yeah, I watched the whole series. Amazing, just incredible series. So I agree with you. Again, William Evans, Omar Holman, Black Nerd Problems, essays out on bookshelves, their website, blacknerdproblems.com. Check these two bright nerds out and see what they're geeking out about every day, and find what you're passionate about. Again, thanks so much for sitting down with me, and best of luck with this book.
Thank you so much, Rita.
Sketch comedy show and empire that you're going to build, and that billionaire status that Omar is going to have trouble with, but he's going to
Let's give the money away. Ain't no trouble with that.
Again, thanks to both of you for joining me this morning. Wow, I want to thank William and Omar, such incredible authors, culture critics, poetry, great slam artists, so talented in so many different ways. I'm so happy that they were able to bring their style of pop culture, to the literary world with their new book, Black Nerd Problems. Make sure you pick up a copy of it. I just enjoy reading the book, from their lighthearted stories to their very serious essays on issues that people really care about. You can't go wrong. There's something in this book for everyone. There will be a lot of references that some people won't get immediately, but that's okay. That's what a good book does. It challenges you, it makes you think, and it teaches you something new. And trust me, when you read Black Nerd Problems, you're going to learn lots of new stuff. Again, I want to congratulate them on their book. And I love how they are helping us redefine and think about the word nerd. Think back to the kids you went to school with, the kids who were teased because they did wear glasses, they did, carry books, they did study, they may have, worn different clothing, and those kids were ostracized. They were oftentimes even bullied by the so-called hip kids. But now Omar and William are helping us understand that nerds pretty much rule the world, and that all of us have, something about our personalities that would classify us as nerds, because the way they define it is just someone who's passionate about something. And as they said, that could be sneakers, that could be cooking shows, it could be comic books. But if you are a passionate person and you've identified your passion, then guess what? You're probably a nerd. Just some words to live by before I get out. Don't judge a book by its cover. Yes, that's what I think the biggest takeaway for me is in reading this book, is that oftentimes we do judge people because they look a certain way, or they dress a certain way, or they use certain language, or they engage in certain conduct. And when we don't take time to get to know that person and to understand the complexities of their personalities, and I think when you read Black Nerd Problems, you'll come to an understanding that that we can't judge people simply by those old tropes, those outdated tropes. That people who are passionate can be nerds, but they also can be billionaires. They also can be Supreme Court justices. They can be lawyers and doctors and, pilots and flight attendants, and they can be, anything they want to be. That's the beauty of this book. So don't judge a book by its cover. And while we're talking about books, make sure you pick up a copy of Awakening. You'll be able to do so. This is my fourth book, Ladies, Leadership, and the Lies We've Been Told. It hits bookshelves on October 26th. You can pre-order your copy today on Amazon and be the first to leave me a review on Amazon. I'm super excited about the book and the journey of this book tour I'm about to go on. I'm going to be in New York City in 2 weeks, 2 locations, one in the Meatpacking District and one up in Harlem. So you can go to my website and find out more information about those book events. And I may be coming to a city near you. So check it out, Awakening. All right, I'm out, y'all. Don't forget to wear your mask. Don't forget to be safe out there. And don't forget, we are all in this together.